Welcome to the Roof Age Advantage, Achieving Unmatched Accuracy in Risk Management. I am Lindsay Flannery. I'm going to be your host today, and I'm also the Director of Communications at ZestyAI. We have a lot of information to tell everybody today, but we want to make this session as interactive as possible. So we actually wanted to start off with an audience poll. So the question is, how do you currently assess roof age for your portfolio? Are you using homeowner supplied roof age? Are you using agent estimated roof age? Is it verified through permits? Are you using them verified through homeowner documentation? Using a third-party vendor? Are you not currently using roof age or something else? And if it's something else, please go ahead and put it into the chat box. We would love to hear what it is. So it looks like a lot of people are using homeowner supplied roof age. We're definitely going to chat a little bit about that today. A couple people or a few people on the call not currently using roof age. So obviously an interesting session for you guys. And then a good amount using agent estimated roof age as well. So this is really interesting. This is great. It looks like today is going to be a very informative session for everybody here. So thank you for participating. I want to introduce everyone to our presenters today. So first up, we have Boston Walker. He is the AI product manager at ZestyAI. He works on our roof age product and also on our Z Property platform. Before coming to ZestyAI, he worked in banks and hedge funds using AI to trade stocks, and he's also served in the Canadian Army. He is based out of our AI research hub in Montreal, and that's where he's joining us from today. So welcome, Boston. I also want to introduce everyone to Chanel Gauthier, a senior data scientist at ZestyAI. Chanel works on the deep learning team. She works mostly in computer vision and trains deep learning models to classify or segment building and property features. So for example, identifying roof material or assessing roof condition. Chanel also works with large language models and generative AI, doing things like using them to summarize lengthy building permits. Chanel has a Bachelor of Engineering in Software Engineering and a master's degree specializing in deep learning and computer vision. We're so fortunate to have Chanel at the company, and we're really happy that she's able to join us today. So welcome, Chanel. I know most people on the call are going to be familiar with ZestyAI and what we do here, but I did want to give a quick overview. So ZestyAI is the leading property and climate risk analytics platform. What we do is we take huge amounts of property information from building permits and real estate transactions, places like satellite imagery from low-flying aircraft, and we combine that with weather data, topography details, and historical loss data to create highly accurate risk models. So our models provide property-level insights, giving insurance carriers what they need to make informed risk decisions about each individual property. And like I said, it is individual properties. So even properties within the same neighborhood or even neighboring properties can have wildly different risk scores depending on their individual property features. Our models help insurers with new business underwriting. It helps them improve rating, and it also helps them optimize their portfolios. So I'm going to kick things off with the problem with roof age. Boston's going to take over from there to talk about the solution, and then Chanel's going to take a deeper dive into how it all works. Our goal for today is to have you walk away with next steps that are going to help you improve your risk selection, lower your loss ratios, and streamline inspections and operations. And right at the very end, we're also going to host a Q&A. So please use the Q&A box to type in any questions that you have as the session goes on. We have some people behind the scenes who are going to collect all those questions, and we're going to, like I say, answer as many as we can at the end of the session. So let's dive in here. So as you know, the roof is a major source of claims. It's where problems start. So claims that typically involve the roof, things like you see here, wind, hail, weather-related water claims, those all make up more than half of insurance claims. And this problem is not going away. In fact, it's very likely going to get worse. So anyone who's done work on their own home recently knows costs are way up. The costs of labor are up, the cost of building materials are up, and with all those costs increasing, homeowners' ability to pay for repairs and maintenance is decreasing. So last month, we polled 517 homeowners from across the US, and this is what we found out. So 62% of homeowners are putting off home improvements or maintenance for financial reasons. And unfortunately, only 35% of homeowners would feel comfortable with a large home cost like a roof replacement right now. And this one on the right side of your screen is actually one that surprised me the most, which is when asked how they would handle a roof replacement, 40% of respondents said they would attempt to file an insurance claim. So with roof quality being so closely linked to roof claims, we can assume that as people have less ability to maintain their roofs, we're going to start to see an increase in the already high number of roof-related claims. So what are we doing wrong and why is this such an issue? So there's a few reasons. So first, many carriers rely on homeowner supplied roof age, but that's often unreliable. In fact, 1/3 of all homeowner supplied roof age is inaccurate. And it's not because people are trying to be misleading, it's because homeowners don't know the age of their roof. So I'm going to admit, I actually don't know the age of my own roof. So I haven't replaced the roof since moving into my home, and I don't know when the previous owners redid it. And the results of our survey show that I'm not alone in this. So when we did our homeowner survey, we found that while homeowners who replaced their roof generally know its age, it's still a blind spot for those who have moved in after the fact. So when we apply what we found in our survey to the entire homeowner population, we see that of those owners who replaced their roofs, there are still 6 million properties where they don't know the exact age. And when homeowners were not in their home at the time of the last re-roofing, an additional 14 million properties don't know the age of their roof. So that's a total of 20 million properties where the homeowners don't know the age of their roof, which could lead to about 1.3 billion in premium leakage. With so many people in the dark on the age of their roof, we can see why homeowner supplied roof age has such significant limitations. And then when it comes to agent supplied roof age, which is another one that many people are using, we also can't ignore agent incentives. So insurance agents are typically compensated on a commission basis, which can introduce some challenges. The commission structure creates a potential conflict of interest. Sort of higher reported roof agers can result in higher premiums or even disqualification for insurance coverage, while lower reported roof ages may lead to a lower premium and a greater chance of securing a commission. So while agents are doing their best and striving to provide accurate data, the inherent nature of the commission system introduces just the possibility of biases and inaccuracies. Because of the issues with homeowner knowledge and agent incentives, carriers can sometimes use underwriters to fill in the gap and validate the dates of re-roofing. But unfortunately, that can introduce some challenges as well. It creates a negative experience because customers can sometimes feel that lack of trust during that process. There's also a lot of back and forth between the underwriter, the agent, and the homeowner, which is extremely time consuming for the underwriter. And it can also delay the process of binding the policy, which can ultimately result in lost business. Building permits are really the gold standard when it comes to assessing roof age. They're highly accurate, but the issue here is that not every municipality requires a building permit to do roofing work. So only about a quarter of the country has building permits or requires them. So while they're highly effective, building permits can have low coverage, and there needs to be a way to fill in those gaps. Luckily, there is a better way, and I'm going to hand things over to Boston now to take us through the solution.
Thanks. So the challenge is really to go beyond homeowner supplied and agent supplied roof age to get an answer that is both accurate and verifiable at nationwide levels of coverage. So why does this matter for your use case? For the actuaries on the call, obviously for rating purposes, you need an answer that has both high coverage and high reliability. For underwriters, for determining eligibility, determining whether you might need an ACV endorsement, to determine whether or not you need to send out an inspector. For claims people, I know we even have some claims people on the call to determine the amount to pay out for a claim. So all are very familiar use cases for roof age. And further, we know that many of your use cases require an enhanced level of due diligence. So it's not enough just to know the answer. You need to be able to, to prove it and document this for your correspondence with the agent or the homeowner, or for regulatory reasons. So keeping this in mind, we really go beyond just providing an answer for roof age. We also provide you information on the method and data sources used to achieve that number and that answer. As you'll see later in the demo, we really try to provide the full toolkit so that you can make decisions based on this information and take actions based on this information with absolute confidence. So how do we come up with this? there are many sources of data available to us. So the first, as Lindsay explained, is obviously building permits. These are really the gold standard because they're both highly accurate and highly verifiable. You can read the text of a building permit to determine whether the work was done. Here we leverage our existing work in mining property attributes from finalized building permits. And here we have data going back in some cases over 30 years, depending on what county you're in. But due to the nature of building permit data and permitting regimes, we only have this data for approximately 1 out of 5 addresses in the United States. So that brings us to layer 2. Layer 2 is change detection based on historical imagery. So historical imagery is great because we have coverage for approximately 4 to 5 addresses in the United States, so quite a bit higher. And it's also verifiable. You can look at a pair of historical images and actually see what's going on in between them. So here we use a computer vision AI model to go back through sequences of historical imagery for a property to determine when there are visible signs of a re-roofing. And this data also goes back up to 20 years in some cases. Now, finally, for those properties that have neither building permits nor change detection, we can augment the depth of our data using estimation from aerial imagery. So here, using our expertise in roof condition, we can use a single image and visible indicators of the condition and the age of the roof to try to figure out how old it is. Very similar to sending out an inspector in person to actually visit the property and come up with that estimate. Only we can do this at scale and in a very consistent manner. So 3 main approaches, and very importantly, no single approach fits the bill for an integrated roof age product. Each has its own strengths and weaknesses. None of them stands on its own. So that brings us to ZestyAI Roof Age and our approach. So our product philosophy is really to use these different data sources to build up multiple overlapping levels of coverage in order to come up with a single integrated way of thinking about roof age. So what this is about in practice is choosing the best answer in each scenario and using each data source. So building permits, the gold standard, we have it for approximately 20% of the country, as well as construction data. When that's not available, we look back through historical imagery catalogs, and this gives us coverage for another 70% of the country. And then finally, for those properties, approximately 10% of the United States, where we have neither building permits and construction data, nor extensive historical imagery coverage, we can provide an estimation from aerial imagery. In each case, we're going to provide you not only the answer for roof age, but also information about the method and the data sources that we use. So you're going to know where the data comes from. And very importantly, that enables you to choose how to use the data in each case, depending on where it came from. The total result is industry-leading level of coverage at over 95% of the United States and accuracy over 92% of the time. So we've really built a single integrated product that brings you both high levels of coverage and accuracy. Thank you, Lindsay.
Thanks, Boston. That was great. We're going to turn it over to Chanel to take a deeper dive into how this all works.
Thank you, Lindsay. So exactly, now the question is, how does the roof age product really work? And this is exactly what I'm going to answer by doing a deep dive into the 3 layers that are used to determine roof age. Let's start with the first layer. In the first layer, we leverage building permits, meaning we check for a property if there are any re-roofing building permits available. If there are, we're going to take the most recent one and use the permit date to determine roof age. But how do we know which building permit is a re-roofing permit and which one is not? Well, what we did, we use a language model and train a model to identify, to pinpoint re-roofing building permit. And we made sure that the model is able to distinguish between re-roofing permits and simply roof alteration permits. Now, let's say for a property, we don't have any re-roofing permits. What do? We go into layer number 2. And this is in layer number 2 where deep learning and computer vision are introduced. we use historical aerial images, and we have up to 20 years of historic data. What we did, we trained a deep learning model that takes a before and after image and detect if the roof was replaced between the two images. And let me give you a little bit more details on how we do that with this example. So what you're seeing on the screen, same property, image taking at different times. We fed to the model the first two images as the before and after. The model's output was no change. The roof was not replaced. Then we did the same thing for the last two images, and this time the model's output was new roof. The roof was replaced. And I mean, it's very clear the roof was replaced, the color is different, the material is different, even the condition is completely different. Now we know minimum and maximum date of when the roof was replaced. Now let's do an example where it's a little bit less common. Okay, similarly to the previous example, we provided to the model the first two images. Model's output, no change. The roof was not replaced. Then we did the same thing for the last two images, and this time the model's output was new roof. So the roof was replaced between those two images, and it can be very difficult to see. But if you look closely, you'll see that the 5 boxes here, the roof penetration, are no longer visible in the last image. Even the texture is slightly different. And when you look even more closely, you'll see a roof where a stain here that is not visible in the last image, all indicator that the roof was replaced. And the model was able to pick that up. Here I want to be very clear about something. Only changing the roof penetrations alone is not considered re-roofing. Re-roofing is when we change the roof itself, we replace the roof itself. So we made sure to train a model that it's able to distinguish between re-roofing and simply doing roof alteration, such as changing the roof penetration, adding an HVAC, or adding solar panels, for example. Layer number 3. What do we do when we don't have any re-roofing permits or historical images? We go into the last layer. And in this layer, we estimate roof age using the most recent high-quality aerial image. And this estimation is based on multiple factors. So those are the factors. First, we consider the roof quality. We have a 5-class model that evaluates the condition, the quality of the roof. We also consider the roof quality issues or reasons, and we have a model that evaluates the 6 different issues on a rooftop, including patches, discoloration, water ponding, or staining. The region is also considered, and the reason why is because products have different performance depending on the location the property is located. And finally, roof material is also considered in this estimation, and we have an A-class model to classify the roof material of a roof. And it's not a surprise that we're considering roof material because different roof material have different life expectancy. So not a surprise that we're considering this in our estimation.
So for this webinar, we obviously focused a lot on roof age, but there's a number of ways to assess the risk of a roof claim. So each one of you is going to be in a different place along this sort of spectrum of sophistication. Some are going to be using roof age, others are a little further along the curve using kind of additional roof variables like quality and complexity. And then some of you are going to be all the way on the right side there using peril-specific models, which drive even more lift. But wherever you are, ZestyAI can sort of meet you at that level and then help you mature in your sophistication to make the best risk decisions possible. And now we want to do one final polling question. So it's going to come up on your screen just the same as last time. The question is, what do you think the future direction of roof assessment will be at your company? And you can select all that apply again. So are you going to continue to use roof age in your evaluations? Are you going to start incorporating additional criteria such as roof risk and exposure, roof characteristics and quality, et cetera, in addition to roof age? Are you going to transition away from roof age as a primary metric, or are you going to be shifting towards a more comprehensive assessment model that predicts the likelihood and severity of peril-specific claims or others? So please feel free to put that in the chat if you have any other things that you wanted to talk about. All right, so okay, almost no one is going to be transitioning away from roof age. So obviously a valuable session for everyone here today. That's great. And then a good number of people who are going to start to move a little further along that spectrum of sophistication. So this is awesome. All right. We have arrived at the Q&A portion of our session. But before we dive into that, I just wanted to mention this QR code that we have up here. So you can use that code to access an infographic with some of the stats that I discussed earlier in the presentation from our roof survey that we did, or sorry, our homeowner survey that we did. And from that link, you can also book a meeting with us to learn more about our roof age product. So as we said, claims that involve the roof make up more than half of all claims, and the industry is potentially losing billions of dollars due to inaccurate information. So we would absolutely love to help you improve your risk selection, lower your loss ratio, and streamline inspections and operations. So please take advantage of that QR code and book some time with us. But for now, let's get into our Q&A. So our first question is, does roof age work on commercial properties? So I can take that one. Yes, it absolutely works on both residential and commercial properties. We use the same approach for both. So it's building permits and aerial imagery. And then Chanel, I don't know if you wanted to add anything.
Yeah. So when we created on the machine learning side, when we created our data set, we made sure to add commercial and residential property. So that's why this product, the deep learning model, is working on both kind of properties.
Perfect. Thank you. I don't always have the the model perspective, so I appreciate the backup. And then Boston, I think maybe you can answer this one. What's the coverage of roof age across the US?
Yeah, so good question. Due to basically our overlapping layers of coverage, we're able to offer on average over 95% of addresses. So keep in mind one thing, this is based on a random sample of addresses in the United States, and your mileage may vary depending on your portfolio. So if your addresses are more urban, you might expect higher coverage numbers or located in permitting states. And if your addresses are more rural, those coverage numbers might be a little bit more modest, but 95% on average.
Awesome. And oh, sorry, another one for you, Boston, here is, how often is the data refreshed in your roof age?
Yeah, another great question. So it depends on the layer. For our building permit data, we get new building permits once every 30 days, so fairly often. For our historical imagery and current imagery, it's really the same data source. It's going to depend on where you live. So if you're more urban, you might see flyover periods of once every few months to a year. And yeah, all the way out into, the exurban and rural type addresses, that flyover period is generally going to decrease a little bit. So it kind of varies.
Okay, perfect. And then Chanel, this one's for you. So what happens when there's a change in roof material?
Yeah, so when there's a change in the roof material, this is considered as re-roofing. And today in the presentation, I showed a couple of examples where the roof material was changed. So this is considered as re-roofing, and our model is trained to detect this type of re-roofing.
Is your product centered only around personal lines, or is it also effective for commercial lines?
Should I take that one, Lindsay?
Yeah, sorry, Boston, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, no worries. So the answer is no, it's not centered around personal lines in any way, actually. So we kind of address this, in terms of the data sources and the availability for both residential and commercial addresses. But really from the start, we intended this to be a multi-line product. So we baked, I'm sure Chanel could talk to this as well, but we baked a lot of commercial and residential addresses into our training sets to make sure that you're going to get performance for both applications.
Okay, perfect. And then, oh, sorry, one more question. Do you differentiate between full and partial re-roofing? Chanel, could you take that one?
Short answer, no. So partial re-roofing must be significant enough to alter the risk profile of the building to be considered. Let's say, for example, we have a multi-material roof and only one section is re-roof. We're going to flag these if the portion is significant. But at the end of the day, we really rely on the judgment of human, and to be more precise, on former underwriters, because human label the data set and we train our model using this data set. So we really rely on the judgment of human. And also there's always a way to verify the roof rate. You can click on view verification, see the raw permit, see the pair of images.
And do you provide a confidence score as part of roof age? Boston, did you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. So what you get as part of roof age is obviously the age of the roof in years. As well, we're going to give you information on which method and which data source was used to come up with that answer. So there might be multiple data sources used as well. Sometimes we can have a data source that helps us establish a minimum or a maximum age of the building. In those cases, we're also going to give you information on the full kind of bounds on the roof age that we have. And so in every case, you're going to get all the tools you need to make that decision yourself, and you need to choose how to use it. So while we don't provide that confidence score directly, you can choose exactly how to use it in each case.
Perfect. And then I think this is the last question that we're going to take for now. What do you do if there's a large date gap between the images?
First of all, this does happen, to be transparent. Sometimes you will see gaps between historical images of multiple years. In these cases, we obviously have wider uncertainty with estimating from historical image. So this is where our multiple data sources can sometimes help. For example, if we have a permit or construction data that indicates a maximum age for the roof, we can narrow that gap a little bit. And when there's a gap, basically from what we've shown you, we're also going to give you the minimum and the maximum. So you're going to know that that gap exists. We're really transparent about that to make sure that you're not blindsided if you're taking action or making a decision based on that.
Can I add something quickly?
Yeah, absolutely.
So when we train on the machine learning side, when we train the model, the deep learning model, we made sure to show example with larger time gap. So the model is trained to learn the useful features indicator of re-roofing. And then the model can detect accurately when the roof is replaced.
Perfect. Okay. If anyone had a question that wasn't answered, I think we're going to reach out to you separately and make sure that we get you the answers that you need. So this brings us to the end of this session. Thank you so much for everyone for joining us. It was really great to walk you through roof age. Some final housekeeping items. Everyone is going to be receiving a recording of the webinar, so please keep an eye on your inboxes for the recording. And then also at the end of this session, when it closes out, a survey is going to come up. If you have a couple minutes, we would really appreciate knowing what you thought of today's session. Your feedback is how we improve and how we continue to bring you highly valuable sessions. So please, if you do have a couple minutes, we would love to hear from you. And then lastly, please don't be a stranger. If you have any questions or need anything, please reach out to me. My email address is here. It's lindsay@zesty.ai, and I would love to be able to help in any way I can. So thank you again for joining us today, and we will see you at the next webinar.